be safer in the hands of the people than in the conference rooms of any elite.
Sam Seder.
They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
Ever get the feeling you've been cheated?
It is Wednesday, June 14th, 2023. My name is Sam Seder. This is the five-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, Dr. Titi Afolabi, second-year resident physician in internal medicine at Mass General Hospital, member of the Mass General Brigham Organizing Committee on the recent vote to unionize more doctors, as we've seen spreading across the country. Also on the program today, happy Donald Trump arraigned yesterday day. Quite possible he will enjoy many more of those days in the coming months. Meanwhile, the Fed to meet today. No rate hike expected, with news of cooling inflation as Larry Summers has a cry. House Republicans pocket the debt deal and now signal they may seek more cuts or shut down the government. Genius deal. And by a hair, Jared Bernstein confirmed to chair the Council of Economic Advisors. Meanwhile, the National Labor Relations Board reverses a Trump-era rule and expands the definition of employee with rights to unionize, which looks to include gig workers. UPS strikes a deal with Teamsters to roll out AC in their newer trucks in a bid to avoid a massive strike this summer.
That's what it takes to get air conditioning.
There you go. Reversing the Trump administration policy, the U.S. extends temporary protected status for nearly 350,000 immigrants. Biden administration announces another $325 million in worth of weapons for Ukraine. This amid reports the CIA had warned Ukraine not to blow up the Nord Stream pipeline. EU files a formal antitrust complaint versus Google and proposes breaking up its ad business. Lastly, Cornell West announces he's now looking to run on the Green Party ticket,
That's
leaving
an upgrade.
that other party, Meet the People's Party or something like that.
Party in quotes. We don't even know.
By the wayside. All this and more on today's Majority Report. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks so much for joining us. Emma Vigeland here, of course, with...
It is Hump Day.
It is Hump Day. There it is.
Wait, you got to show me while I do it. There we go.
Matt's looking over at...
Bradley said my name. I didn't know why he said it, but I guess that's why.
There you go. Yep, there you go.
It is Hump Day.
There it is. It's Hump Day, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello.
We got a lot to get to. Just one guest today. We're going to cover some of this arraignment by Donald Trump. I mean, it's big news. It's pretty rare that a former president, at least in this country, I mean, we see it often in other countries, but it's pretty rare. Well, we haven't seen it in this country where a former president arraigned on federal charges.
It's because they've all been good people up until now.
I mean, there's probably been a lot of things to arraign them for. But I mean, and here's the amazing thing about this. And it really has been near universal, the response to these charges, that they are that Jack Smith has done his homework, and they're pretty airtight. The amazing thing about this is that this was all completely avoidable. Like there couldn't have been more effort exercised by the FBI, by the National Archives, by the DOJ to avoid this scenario. They couldn't possibly have. They asked for months and months and months. They went to pick it up. They hadn't announced that they were picking it up. They just did. They picked up this stuff, and then they found out there was more.
Yeah.
And then they picked up more, and they found out there was more.
Eric Levitz had a piece where he gave another example of someone much lower level in the government who had accidentally taken some classified documents, who is just immediately prosecuted and went to prison for it for a short period of time.
Bronco Marchich had one too, where it's like people, their research upset by COVID, taking stuff home and that sort of thing, and we'll throw the entire book at you because we have to stand up for these rules.
Yeah, exactly. And they gave Trump and they gave Biden and Pence an opportunity to return them. The latter two did. Trump hid and hoarded them.
It's also important to just mention, and I don't care about Pence and I don't care about Biden, but they did their own search to make sure that they didn't have it. They found some and they gave it up. Now, maybe they secretly knew they had it the whole time, whatever. I mean, these things happen in the context, and we allow the former presidents a certain amount of leeway in this. You can argue that there shouldn't be any leeway for anybody or not. Nevertheless, the real reason why we're here today is because Trump, for whatever reason, thought he could get away with it, so much so that he obviously lied to multiple of his lawyers, and that's why they're all quitting. And this is how Fox News reported it. I mean, again, and when the story first came out, I remember we were saying, like, this is the dumbest thing in the world because he could have avoided this 12 times over, but he didn't. This is clip number 1, how Fox News, you got to watch the chyron here because that's where it's all happening. Again, this is Fox News. Here we go.
And all of it was illegal because thankfully she was never president. She didn't have the powers.
Wannabe dictator speaks at the White House after having his political rival arrested is literally the Fox News chyron.
As they show Biden on the left. Yeah. So Trump's speaking, if you're listening on the podcast.
It's a little bit confusing because when I see wannabe dictator, my eyes are kind of drawn to Trump, I guess.
Yeah, but this was apparently the chyron at the end of the 8 o'clock hour, and then when Hannity showed up at 9, it was gone.
Yeah, 8:59.
But it flashed right then, and this just goes to show that Fox News is going to still sink to the lowest possible point possible when there is no major corporate entity that can sue them for a ton of money. Because with Dominion, like they learned their lesson in that very narrow regard about speaking on election interference in that way. But, Biden can't sue for being called a wannabe dictator. There's no financial ramifications for it, so they'll go as low as possible. This is their business model.
Who was hosting the 9 p.m. or that 8 p.m. last night?
I will double check, but I believe it was Brian Kilmeade.
Yes, Kilmeade's definitely. They're all vying for this job, and so they're just saying, "How outrageous can I get?" I mean, meanwhile,
that does sound like Kilmeade's voice.
Yeah, or at least his production team.
We'll have some clips of Trump talking in the wake of his arraignment. I don't know. You see competing articles as to whether he's actually genuinely worried or not. The one thing that leads me to believe that he's genuinely worried, or would be, is he still doesn't have a lawyer to represent him in this specific case.
Counterpoint, he's clinically insane.
That's also
I was gonna say, does it matter what his judgment is? If it he's gotten this deep, he's got 71 indictments. That's Barry Bonds numbers.
But I do think that there is some I would not be surprised if there weren't some the lawyers function as some type of totem for him. I got my lawyer. He was always I want my Roy Cohn.
Yeah.
And so I just think that he has an investment in that. But we'll see. I mean, he's still going around.
I can't wait for the Georgia potential indictment. Hopefully that comes, because then he'll say, I got the hat trick. I got the hat trick. I got Georgia. I got New York.
Well,
and the federal one.
We'll
to
talk
top
about
it
this in a minute too, after we hear from our sponsors. But there also may be what do you call a trick? Because there may be some indictments coming in New Jersey. We'll talk about that in a second. In the meantime, one of our sponsors today, Fast Growing Trees. This is one of the, I don't know, over the years we've had a couple of these, but this is a sponsor that I was using their products really for years before they ended up advertising on the show. Fruit trees, bloomerang. A bloomerang is a lilac sort of tree that blooms both in the spring and then comes back around in July. But I'm talking about fastgrowingtrees.com. It doesn't matter whether you're looking for like a shade tree or a fruit tree or just, something ornamental. Fastgrowingtrees.com will help you plant your dream garden with their expert advice and fast, reliable shipping. FastGrowingTrees.com have plant experts. They curate thousands of easy-to-grow plant, shrub, and tree varieties for your unique climate. Meyer lemons to evergreens and everything in between. Happy plants, happy home, right? But sometimes it's hard to know which plants are going to do best. That is not a problem with FastGrowingTrees.com because you get customized recommendations based on your specific needs. Plus, if you want, their plant experts are always available. They're really super quick on this to help you keep your plants growing healthy through the season and beyond. No more waiting in long lines. No more hauling heavy plants around. And the beauty of fastgrowingtrees.com, as opposed to, let's say, your box store, gardening centers, whatever it is, they have a very large array of species of trees and plants and shrubs and whatnot. And your plants arrive at your door in just literally a few days. Super easy to order online. And the trees, I don't know if they grow faster per se, but they're bigger than trees usually get online. And I guess theoretically then, like, they start to really accelerate once you get past a certain height. But fastgrowingtrees.com, they have a 30-day Alive and Thrive guarantee. Everything will look great, fresh out of the box. Join over 1.5 million happy Fast Growing Trees customers. Go to fastgrowingtrees.com/majority right now to get 15% off your entire order. Get 15% off at fastgrowingtrees.com/majority. Also, one of our sponsors today, where is that guy? Here it is. It's Henson Shaving. Henson Shaving, it's a family-owned business that they manufacture aerospace parts. They made parts for the International Space Station. They made parts for the Mars rover. And now they are bringing their precision engineering to your shaving experience. Check out this thing. People find that disposable razors are uncomfortable. It turns out not the quality of the blade. It turns out that when you shave, it is the distance of the blade from the razor itself. And that the further distance it is, the blade wobbles freely. And then essentially you get more nicks, you get more cuts, you get more scrapes. It's an extension problem. And Henson Shaving, they use aerospace grade, computer precision massage. I guess they call them CNC, but I never remember what it means.
Computer numerical control.
Thank you very much,
Thanks, Bradley.
Henson makes metal razors that extend just 0.0013 because of their computer numerical control machines. And that computer numerical control machine allows you to have a blade that is extending just literally the thickness, less than the thickness of a human hair. That means a secure and stable blade, a great shave. And they also, in addition to these things just looking cool, they have a channel right here so you can evacuate hairs. You don't have to bang it on your sink or stick your thumb there and give yourself a little cut. Henson Shaving, and the other thing I love about these guys, they want to be the best razor, not the best razor business. That means you buy it once, you are done. There's no plastic. There's no subscriptions. There's no proprietary blades. No planned obsolescence. Literally, this thing you will have until you pass away. We're about a week off from Father's Day. Great time to get a razor that will last forever. And here's the beauty. Once you have one of these, it costs $2 to $3, maybe $3 to $5 a year to get new blades. And they're giving our audience a 2-year supply of blades for free. So it's one and done. Just go to hensonshaving.com/majority. That's hensonshaving.com/majority. Add a razor and add the 100 pack of blades to your cart, then enter the code majority. You'll get the blades for free. The link is in the description. Just use those standard blades, and it's sort of cool. The top comes off, pop it in, you tighten it up, and you're good to go. And they have some very cool looking razors too.
I actually think I'm going to get that for Father's Day.
It's a great gift. Yeah. It's a great gift. You don't have to get a subscription or anything like that.
Right.
We'll put all the links in the podcast and YouTube descriptions. Also, don't forget, it's your support that makes it possible. You can become a member of the program at jointhemajorityreport.com. Check that out as well. Also, justcoffee.coop, fair trade coffee, tea, or chocolate. Use the coupon code majority, get 10% off. Let's get back to business here. So Trump leaves Florida after the arraignment and goes up to Bedminster, New Jersey, where he's got his big golf course. Now,
and he summers there as well, because the summers in Florida are a little too hot.
They get a little too hot. The interesting thing about Bedminster is there is a theory out there. Now, they had to charge Trump, and there's a lot of stuff in the indictment about disseminating the secret information. There's that tape apparently where he's talking about it. There's also there's other things that are violations that aren't necessarily part of the indictment. They just support the indictment. And where he basically did the obstruction and the hiding of these records was in Florida. But where he did the dissemination was in Bedminster. That's where that recording supposedly came from. So it's not inconceivable, according to some of the experts out there, that Jack Smith could bring further indictments in New Jersey based upon the dissemination of that information.
Interesting.
Because the grand jury has to meet where the crime was committed. Now, he may or may not, we'll actually see, but that's just a slight coincidence. Trump heads up to Bedminster that night as if, in some ways, returning to the scene of the crime. Here he is, speaking to supporters in Bedminster, New Jersey.
Charging a former president of the United States under the Espionage Act of 1917 wasn't meant for this. An act for a crime so heinous that only the death penalty would do, and threatening me with 400 years in prison for possessing my own presidential papers, which just about every other president has done, is one of the most outrageous and vicious legal theories ever put forward in an American court of law. The Espionage Act has been used to go after traitors and spies. It has nothing to do with a former president legally keeping his own documents. As president, the law that applies to this case is not the Espionage Act, but very simply the Presidential Records Act, which is not even mentioned in this ridiculous 44-page indictment. Under the Presidential Records Act, which is civil, not criminal, I had every right to have these documents. The crucial legal precedent is laid out in the most important case ever on this subject, known as the Clinton Socks case. You know what that means?
I'm not sure I know what that means.
Socks or socks? Okay.
The issue, of course, again, has to do with the fact that he lied and obstructed justice and lied to the FBI, lied about hiding these things, conspired to do so, and though he's not being directly charged for disseminating this information, it is obviously supporting in the indictment. Here he is basically using this in the same way that he had, I think, in the wake of his loss of his election, to talk about how he's being targeted. The weird part about this is that there is, outside of his supporters, there doesn't seem to be anyone making a full-throated defense of him based upon the indictment. It's really just more like sort of
it's
innuendo.
Like trying to pretend he's Edward Snowden or something.
Well, it's funny you say that. I mean, all this hand-wringing about the Espionage Act, and
he's saying it was used on traitors. Like he used a
reality winners about it, right? Exactly. Yeah.
And this whole thing, it's like, what? So you don't like when classified documents are shared? Like he said, these are mine. I want to keep these. That's not how this works. That's actually like a pretty important principle, that these are public records.
And there's audio recording of you saying that they are classified, contradicting your I waved the wand and declassified it before.
I just said that to impress people.
Yeah.
But here he is, still at Bedminster, talking about how he's going to doing his full-on Bane impersonation.
I will appoint a real special prosecutor to go after the most corrupt president in the history of the United States of America, Joe Biden.
Oh, not Obama?
I was going to say, wait a second.
Crime family.
Pause it for a second. Honestly,
Biden crime family.
Honestly, I did when he, when I first heard him say that, the first thing that came into my mind was Obama, and then I was like, no, of course, it's got to be Clinton, right? And then, but now Biden is shot
Biden
to the
crime
front.
family.
I'm sorry, it just doesn't pass the smell test. They didn't build up a narrative about Biden being corrupt. So I just feel like most people who aren't insane don't think that Biden is a part of a crime family.
Again, the problem they have too is that the idea of Biden being this sort of mastermind behind this sort of web of corruption, and the fact that he's an old guy, I actually think that the is going to sort of cut against each other on some level. But go back and let's let him roll.
I will appoint a real special prosecutor to go after the most corrupt president in the history of the United States of America, Joe Biden, and the entire Biden crime family. Name a special prosecutor. And all others involved with the destruction of our elections, our borders, and our country itself. They're destroying our country. And when I'm reelected, and we will get reelected, we have no choice. We're not going to have a country anymore. I will totally obliterate the deep state. We will obliterate the deep state. And we know who they are. I know exactly who they are. Mm-hmm. They want to take away my freedom because I will never let them take away your freedom. It's very simple. They want to silence me because I will never let them silence you. They want you silent. And I am the only one that can save this nation because they're not coming after me, they're coming after you, and I just happen to be standing in their way, and I will never be moving.
It's kind of effective, even though there seems to be no self-awareness that they start chanting "lock him up," which is exactly what they chanted about Hillary, related to the mishandling of government information with her private email server in 2016. That's what they were saying lock her up for, but they have no awareness that there's complete hypocrisy, that they're supporting Trump in his much more egregious case.
Those chants felt a bit different. Like the air was out of him a little. Like lock him up, and then it's like, oh yeah, wait.
We're doing the hits again. We're doing the hits again.
Yeah.
Hit the same way.
No. There's not as much anger.
After 71 indictments on our guy.
It's lock him up.
It's a little bit tough. It's a little bit tough when you're talking about a guy. So much
Look
easier.
him up, not me. That's the whole chant.
But it's helpful to know that, like, it's not the economic anxiety driving these people to chant "lock him up," or when they said "lock her up." You know, they're fashy. They want their political opponents locked up for things that may or may not be actually legitimate, or maybe trumped up by Trump. So that's the strong man telling them what to do.
Sam's crush-proof seed sack says, Sam, those additional facts in the indictment is telegraphing. Those facts are irrelevant to what was charged in the SDF. The telegraph message was for Nalta. That is the his advisor who was carrying these boxes around, and perhaps a few others. Also, those were agency documents and thus not presidential records. So Trump is basically wrong on the law at the definitional level, and the beginning of any statute, love the show, left is best. We heard, you know, Trump's up there talking about how he's going to obliterate the deep state, and somehow people feel like their freedom is in some way in peril if they steal documents from the government and then the FBI comes and they obstruct justice and then they lie to him and they pretend they gave him that's something that the common person can really, I think, relate to. Here is a Trump supporter outside the Miami courthouse with a Fox Business correspondent. Don't know exactly who it is. And here is that supporter.
Country. The most innocent man that's ever been in the White House, Donald J. Trump, the best president we've ever had, 45/47. He's coming back. This is the longest witch hunt going on 8 years now since he came down the escalator. The guy's an American hero?
Do you believe there's a two-tier system of justice? Do you believe this is unfair?
Obviously. I don't even know how anybody can ask that with a straight face. There's obviously a two-tier justice system. Why is the Clinton crime family running wild? Why is Beijing Biden and the money laundering operation that Hunter Biden started out of Ukraine? He started the war on Ukraine 5 years ago when he was working for Burisma.
Last question. If Trump were to get reelected, should he consider a pardon for the Biden family?
Absolutely not. They're a crime family. You're either an American or a Democrat these days. There's no way to be both.
So as you can see here, strong sentiments out here. There was
Yeah.
I mean,
that sums it up. Alex Salmon was there for Slate. You guys should read his piece, but he was just saying how the crowd was a little smaller than expected, but their go-to insult was everyone's a pedophile.
What are the tiers?
Pedophile, communist was another. And I did enjoy the part where they said that people started chanting, "Where is Ron? Where is Ron?"
That's awesome.
That part's awesome.
Actually, if you can infiltrate these and turn them against Ron DeSantis, I think you do a lot of good
You're
work.
an American hero.
Well, what are the two tiers of justice we're experiencing here? Former
Republicans
presidents and
versus
everybody
Democrats.
else?
well, it's two tiers of justice between former presidents.
Yeah, MAGA and non-MAGA.
That relates to us all.
Here's Marjorie Taylor Greene making the same argument about communism. I mean, this is I don't know if it resonates. I mean, I think it does. I think they just use the word communist in the same way that they use critical race theory. And I don't even think they use critical race theory. I think they just use the letter CRT. And I'm not even sure if the people who deploy that even are aware of what the CRT stands for. It communism, CRTism, pedophilia all sort of mean the same thing to these people, and it's just like another way of saying bad, but having an expanded having an expanded vocabulary. Here is Marjorie Taylor Greene. Incidentally, I mean, arguably one of the most powerful House members that we have in the country. I mean, you know, she's not officially but she is one of the most powerful members of our government.
In terms of fundraising numbers, and now she has a lot of clout with the most powerful Republican in the House, Kevin McCarthy, because she helped him get enough votes to remain Speaker, and then also like to help get the caucus together
And
for
to be
the
clear,
debt ceiling.
that's a governmental position, and I say that because our government apparently has become communist.
Oh, right.
But yet, here they are, the Biden administration, arresting really their top political opponent and enemy. This is a communist country. We've been taken over. It's not the America that we all thought that we had. We're not a free country anymore. But yet, here,
very low energy.
Just to be clear, the Jack Smith exists because Durham exists, right? I mean, like the special prosecutor was given specific powers and independence that was given to Durham, and Jack Smith completely independent from the DOJ, and we will find that out when, if Trump wins, they'll appoint an investigator to investigate the investigation of Trump. You can be assured of that. But that's what's going on. This is where we're at this point. There is no, I mean, it's almost as if, like, sort of like just any semblance of actual arguments about government have gone out the window. It is all tribalism and identity politics for these people, right? I mean, everybody is either a pedophile or a communist. If you in any way, and this is despite the fact that we have seen all of the biggest defenders of Donald Trump from a legal standpoint come out and say, it's pretty ironclad. I mean, he's in trouble.
He's in trouble with the law. Is he in trouble with his base?
No.
I saw.
Well, that's why they have to perform.
Yeah, I mean, and he killed it at that speech. I mean, not killed it, but like for that crowd, when he says "I am you," that works for them to a certain degree. I don't know if it's enough, but I saw Stephanie Rule on MSNBC last night was saying, like, he's getting his supporters all riled up, and he'll get donations from them, but he's really scaring off big donors for his race. And I was like, wasn't that kind of the case in 2016?
Right.
Yeah, they'll
Stephanie,
come back once I knock all these other clowns out.
I'm pretty sure that we understand now as like political analysts that particularly in presidential races, and especially when you were president before, free media is more important than big money donors. And Trump does not have to rely on like the Mitt Romney network to get himself to the nomination. This is a whole different animal. And I don't know. I mean, it's scary to see him get so close to the presidency while being such an anti-democratic freak and an insane person. But I don't know. Like, would we rather have DeSantis?
No.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't. I'd rather have Trump.
And the thing that is also, I think, sort of diluted in any way is that the only way this is going to inhibit, and it's the only chances it inhibits is Trump's chances in the general election.
Yeah,
it will take 5 minutes for the Republican Party to line up behind him. It may suppress the vote in the margins, but you're also looking at a Joe Biden who's going to be running, who, I think even the majority of Democrats would rather see somebody else. And you have now at least in terms of like numbers, I think you look at RFK's numbers, hard to deny that the challenge is there, regardless of whether it's just because of his name or not. But for those who think it's just because of his name, and I think that certainly helps. I mean, there's a lot of evidence. I think there was that candidate who ran in Alabama whose name was like something Kennedy, and that guy was like 90% polling at the beginning when he first entered the race. But the tricky part here is that there's going to be very little opportunity for those people who are voting based only on his name and based on the fact that he's not 80 to see anything else. Like, there's not going to be a debate, which, could cut both ways. There's not going to be, it's hard to imagine that national news is going to start having Kennedy on a regular basis and sort of expose, I mean, what I think are his problematic views, not just in terms of vaccines, but I find a lot of the positions he's taking, having known Bobby, somewhat, personally, but more like professionally, doing a radio show with him for years, that seemed to be inconsistent with positions that he had least as far as I knew them, 10 years ago.
Yeah, was there a hint of the free market stuff?
I mean, no, there wasn't. And now that may be because he just wasn't articulating it at the time, but no, there was always about encroachment on the commons. There was not the sort of lauding of the free market, and there's other issues that I have that are far more expansive than I would have thought really 4 or 5 years ago, even like 2 years ago, frankly. But nevertheless, and I don't think he will have enough numbers to challenge Biden in the primary, but it's not inconceivable that he jumps into the general election.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe he jumps in some other form. Maybe he becomes a vice president for Trump. I have no reason to believe that would be the case, but I have no reason to believe that it wouldn't be the case. People forget that early on when Trump was elected, Bobby went and met with Trump at Trump Tower. I think even in the run up to the inauguration, to talk to him about vaccines.
I don't know if this would have any effect. Kennedy joining with Trump, or I mean,
some of the Q people would like it because
they would like it because they think it's
I don't know. But he also could run in third party. I think Cornell West running on the Green Party ticket now, as opposed to he wasn't really with an actual party. I think there's some question as to and I know he was involved in starting the People's Party in some fashion, but the idea that he hadn't done that due diligence to realize, before he got there that there's no party here. But he's going to run on the Green Party ticket. I mean, presuming that they just appoint somebody. I don't know if they do a democratically elected nominee, but I was here for Bush v. Gore.
I get it, but I think that the threat of Trump, how a normie Democrat who would be swayed by the Kennedy name perceives the threat of Trump is completely nullifying, I feel like, for any effect that Bobby Kennedy's going to have on this race.
I would agree. I mean, I'm just saying it's another factor. So, Trump's going to lose people in the general because of these indictments. But it's not like Biden's a juggernaut to begin with. And again, 40,000, 50,000 votes, I think it was, in 2020. Across 3 states.
Yeah.
It doesn't take a lot of, people not coming out or, third party things. Again, I remember 2020. And so, 2000 rather. And that was not good. All right. We got to take a break. Do we have we do? Okay. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to be talking to Dr. Titi Afolabi, second-year resident physician in internal medicine at Mass General Hospital, member of the Mass General Brigham Organizing Committee on their recent unionization. We'll be right back. We are back. Sam Seder, Emma Vigeland on the Majority Report. Want to welcome to the program Dr. Titi Afolabi, second-year resident physician in internal medicine at Mass General Hospital, a member of the Mass General Brigham Organizing Committee, and now I guess a member, we're waiting for the official word from the National Labor Relations Board of the Committee for Interns and Residents, which, of course, some in our audience may be familiar with. We had spoken to some representatives from the Montefiore hospital strike and labor action that was happening here in New York some months ago. Doctor, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So, give us the backstory on how we got to where we are today, and then you can let us know where we are today in terms of what's been happening up in Boston.
Sure. Yeah. So, I'm a resident, which is a doctor who has completed medical school but is still in training to obtain a full license to practice. And I work at Mass General Hospital, which you mentioned, which is part of a bigger hospital system that includes other hospitals in Boston. And over the last few years, there's been an effort amongst the other residents, as well as the fellows who are also training, but a little bit further ahead in their career, to come together and to use our collective kind of power to bargain for benefits in our contract and for benefits for our patients. And it was kind of born out of necessity when COVID happened and there was so much stress put on the healthcare system and on our hospitals and on our physical bodies. And it's just kind of grown since then. And there's been a wave of unionization across the country. For example, you interviewed residents at Montefiore in New York. So it took a long time to get where we are today, which is we just finished our election, which was held over the course of a week. And we had a really great turnout and we won. And so, as you mentioned, we are awaiting final confirmation from the NLRB, but we're very excited about finally being able to come together and to sit down with our employers and talk about the things that we think will make our lives and our patients' lives better.
Well, residents are notoriously overworked. I mean, and it's this multi-year process to being able to practice independently, and you have to go through it, right? And I know this, one of my closest friends is a resident right now, no time off, essentially, underpaid, plus the fact that a lot of people, I'm sure, some of your colleagues have student debt from going through medical school. Can you explain just some of the conditions that you all have to face as residents?
Yeah, exactly. So we matched to a specific program, and that's the program you're expected to or the hospital that you're expected to stay at for the duration of your training. And so there's no power to negotiate really throughout your training, which can be like 7 years or even more. And I think we know that we are signing up for a very difficult job. I think the nature of the job requires a lot of training and it requires working hard. And I think we all love what we do. I certainly do. I think I have the best job ever. I always say that. But at the same time, we also feel that we deserve basic human rights like every other employer. And that includes being able to pay our bills and live comfortably in the city that we work, which is Boston, which is very expensive. And a lot of these academic institutions are in pretty expensive cities across the nation as well. And so I think it's the combination of being overworked, but also underpaid that really is just, it's too much to bear. And that's really what brought us to this point.
When I've heard stories and like you mentioned that we've spoken to representatives from Montefiore of what residents have to go through, it really is a shock to me that this hasn't happened before now. Has there been like attempts in the past, or is it that this dynamic and Boston is like, I don't know, one of the top 4 or 5 most expensive cities in the country probably by now. And frankly, UMass Medical, I mean, this is, or Mass General, I should say, is a massive corporation, essentially. I mean, it's a massive institution generating a lot of money. Like, what is it that is different? Is it just that sort of that dynamic of like, they're making so much cash, The pay has not kept up. There's more medical debt, I would imagine, than there has been at any other time in our history, or I should say, student debt. Why is that why this hasn't happened before now?
That's a really great question. I'm not too sure personally why this hasn't happened before. I think part of it is the fact that medicine has always been traditionally composed of like a kind of homogenous demographic, namely like white men and white people. And I think now that there are more diverse faces in medicine, there's been an increased pressure to adjust to that change in the demographic. For example, I come from a low-income family, and a lot of my colleagues in medical school and even in residency are able to kind of use their family wealth to help support them. I don't really have that option. So for me, unionization is really, it's really important for me to be able to do my job. And so I'm part of the movement that has created this situation today. And I think also, as I mentioned, COVID was a really big stressor on us as well. And yeah, I think the older generation of physicians has a kind of a different outlook. I've noticed that a lot of our attendings will say things like, it was a lot harder when I trained, and this is what you signed up for, and it's just temporary, and all of those things, which I think are wrong.
Folks love to shut the door after they get through. But what other cohorts of workers are unionized within the Mass General system? I mean, because are residents like the as opposed to the attending? I mean, I don't think there's any move to unionize the attending physicians, but I would imagine at one point, like when this cohort of residents becomes attending physicians at one point, they're going to be more amenable to unionization. But are there what other cohorts are unionized in that system? Did she freeze?
Oh no.
All right, we're going to do.
We'll take a quick break, right?
We're going to try and see if we can get her back. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back after this. Okay, we're back. We had a little bit of technical difficulty. So I was saying that I imagine once the residents and the interns become attending physicians, there may be more, that cohort may be more amenable to unionization after having gone through that process. But what other cohorts in the hospital system are you guys basically one of the last group of folks working there to be unionized?
No, we're actually the first.
All right. We've got some type of problem. Oh, wait. Is she back? I'm sorry. We lost you again.
In some hospitals in Boston,
I'm sorry.
We're unionized nurses.
Okay. I'm sorry. We lost you for a second. Can you hear me?
Oh, shoot.
All right. That's unfortunate.
All right. We're going to take a quick break. We'll try this one more time, and then we'll see if we can get her back. Yeah, let's just do the phone. We're going to take a quick break. Apologies, folks, but we have Dr. Titi Afolabi back on by phone. So, Doctor, you were saying, I was asking if, what are you guys the last cohort at Mass General to unionize? And this is, we should say, at Mass General Brigham Hospital, which is one of the in the Mass General, I guess, network, I guess you would call. Are you guys I think you were just about to say before we had these technical difficulties that you guys are the first cohort of workers at the hospital to unionize.
Yes, we are at Brigham, our partner institution. The nurses are unionized, but for the most part, most working groups are not unionized in our hospital system. So I'm really hoping that this kind of creates the wave of unionization amongst the workers. I think that residents and fellows unionizing hopefully will galvanize other workers to do the same. And I think that is part of the fear that the administration has.
You're saying part of the fear the administration has is this is going to inspire others. Give us, and there's about 75,000 employees in Mass General. I guess Mass General Brigham is they merged, but they're the largest employee in Massachusetts.
Right, exactly. And I think it's really important that they lead the effort to make sure that their workers are able to have the benefits that they need in order to do their jobs, because their jobs are so closely linked to patient care and quality patient care.
Give us a sense of like what happens now. There was a vote, like you mentioned. There was 75%, I think, in favor of unionization. What happens now?
Yeah, so as soon as the NLRB kind of confirms the results of the election, we are going to begin kind of soliciting feedback from the bargaining unit of other residents and fellows about what are some of the issues that they would like us to see to bring forward, and begin kind of negotiating our contract, which we anticipate might take a while to do.
Okay. And how long do you know of the process for the National Labor Relations Board to like certify the vote? Do you have any idea?
I think it should be pretty soon, within the next week or so. I'm not entirely sure.
Oh, that quick. Okay.
I think that there's an opportunity for each side to challenge the vote, and I do not know if we will be doing that. I doubt it. But.
And what has been the general reaction to the vote? I mean, I think you alluded to some of the attending physicians sort of poo-pooing the thing, but what has been the general reaction at the hospital?
Well, I think people are really excited about this. I think it's something that we've been talking about for so long, and it's been it's been such a painstaking process of, I think the process of forming a union is, the burden really is on the employees, and it's widely disproportionate for us to organize 2,500 trainees without being able to use social media early on and things like that. And so we're just really excited that this is finally happening. It feels very surreal. I think that's the general sense that people have. I think the administration is, I guess, disappointed, but I think overall people are really looking towards what's going to come next, and how we'll see the benefits kind of start to kick in.
Can you give us like a timeline, or at least from your perspective, of how the union drive developed? Were you part of the initial organizing? At what stage did someone reach out to you, a fellow, like a resident, and say, let's go get a cup of coffee, I want to talk to you about something? How did that happen?
Yeah, I think the very first conversations about this happened before I joined, which was, I think, around 2020 when COVID really hit the hospitals. And it kind of stayed in the early stages, even when I joined the effort, which was really just trying to have conversations with as many people as possible to let them know that we were thinking about doing this and what their thoughts were. So I kind of heard rumblings about it before I actually joined the program, but I knew that it was something that I definitely wanted to be part of. It's been a long time coming, so it's been about 2.5 years of just really like having conversations with people, and then finally the card launching process was faster, and then the election happened soon after then.
Was there like was there a sort of how, I guess, like strategically was these conversations laid out? Like how were they sort of like ever increasing concentric circles, or I mean, because we're talking as far as I can tell, just there's about 2,000 potential folks, right, in this union.
Yeah, there's 2,500 of us total, and I think maybe 1,600-ish people voted. It was, I mean, I think that's really the benefit of working with CIR, is because they have all of the staff and the experience to help us organize the body of other physicians who we needed to have conversations with, because it was just, it was really difficult to figure out who everyone was, where they worked, how to reach them. But and in the end, I think it's really shown that it's been worth it, and the process really worked.
I'm not super familiar with how like the resident process happens, but I presume you have friends from med school at other institutions around, I don't know, the country. Like, are you hearing where does your unionization drive fit in with what your understanding is, to the extent that you know of, like what other residents, interns across the country are doing?
Yeah, I think everyone that I know wants to be in a unionized program if they're not already in one. We are definitely not the first. There's many around the country already. So some of my friends are already in programs that are unionized. And those that aren't are definitely interested, especially now that we have won our election, in kicking off their process. I know CIR employers are getting requests nonstop from programs around the country. So I think it's really something that has already started. This wave has started already, and I think now that we've won, it's really going to galvanize around the country as well. So both within our own institution and also around the country for other resident and physician groups.
Well, it's an inspiring story, and I think it's both interesting and inspiring from the impact that it there's some indication that there's a diversity happening with the folks who become residents, and both in terms of like the diversification that's happening within the context of the union movement, that you have doctors becoming a part of that. Dr. Titi Afolabi, the second-year resident physician, internal medicine at Mass General Hospital, and now a member of the Mass General Brigham organizing committee of the of new union there. Thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it, and we'll check back in to see how it goes after that National Labor Relations Board makes its decision.
Thank you so much for having me and for covering the story. We really appreciate your support.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye. Okay, folks. We're going to head into the fun half. Sorry about the technical difficulties. Sometimes we just don't have the ability to force. It's not always on our end.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
The interwebs, I mean, to be honest, we transitioned to a video interview program pretty seamlessly for the demands that is. Like, bandwidth wise, it's difficult sometimes. Like, we used to have difficulty with audio phone calls.
That's right.
All the time.
That's right. And there, her phone wasn't so great.
No. That's an IP thing, though.
But this is a good time to remind you, regardless, if you ever hear and anybody approaches you in the chat and claims to be me or Emma or Matt or Bradley and says, hey, we want to interview you, we just need you to send us money so that we can send you phone. We don't do that. That's not us.
Clearly.
There are scammers in our various chats, YouTube chat, other places who are approaching people this way. And so we will never, ever, well, we also don't invite people on via chat onto the show. I'm sorry, that's just not the way it happens.
You can give me like $500 to not come on Left Reckoning, though, if you want to do that. There's a website for it.
There's a special Dropbox where you get cash. You can drop, but we will also never ask cash. Now, Matt might, but that's only
Watch
to not
space.
appear.
I want to do those $10,000 webinars like things that Barry Weiss is doing.
Gets to do.
Yeah.
We're working on that. Just a reminder, it's your support that makes this show possible. You can become a member, join the majorityReport.com. You also head over to the Discord, majoritydiscord.com. It's free. There's over 8,000 folks there. Great resource if you're trying to organize locally, if you're feeling a little depressed about the politics and you want to maybe join a DSA group, or you want to see who's involved in mutual aid in a certain location. This is a great place to start, always. And also the AM Quickie. amquickie.com. Sign up. You get your news free for 3 days a week. And then we have a subscription where you can get 5 days a week. This is it has grown significantly in terms of its popularity. I'm also psyched that, it also reaches different places in DC. And like it's nice to know that some folks who are at least close to power are getting news that is, they get their news from a source that is, focused more on like labor type of issues and other more progressive causes. So check that out, amquickie.com. Emma.
Yes.
ESVN.
We did a deep dive into the Saudi Live /PGA stuff on Monday. We spoke about the NBA and Stanley Cup Finals. Now they have concluded, so that might be a little out of date. But we also did talk about the running back market and how we're at an inflection point right now with some of the labor force in the NFL flexing their muscle with ownership when it comes to getting kind of unfair contracts. So youtube.com/ESVN show.
Matt, Left Reckoning, and I should say, oblivious fool just said, I am the Left Reckoning Patreon interview from this weekend was fantastic. Just wanted to say everybody should check it out. What are they talking about?
The Left Reckoning Patreon interview this week was Capitalism in the Countryside with Keith Orahal, where we talked about rural politics in not through the lens of red versus blue, but along lines of capitalism. So yeah, check that out. Keith's a great your professor, and we had a good conversation. But last night we had Nick French on. We talked about Marxism and what's described as wokeness, the corporate ESG and DEI and different sort of alphabet soup. And in the post game, I talked for about 30 minutes about graphics cards and how they illustrate what's going on with both speculation, AI boosting, and investors, and why investors are not good for gamers, and capitalism need to nationalize graphics cards, have Uncle Sam branded GPUs, I think so. But anyway, we talked about that in the post game, patreon.com/leftreckoning.
Why wouldn't we do that?
To have a Uncle Sam, RTX 5090.
The whole idea with the ACA was at least where a lot of its sort of genuinely progressive support came from was the idea of a public option, so that you just like enter into the marketplace in all of these sort of Obamacare marketplaces, and there would be a public option, not just not profit, but a public option that was able to sort of pool its, the back end resources, and that it would be very difficult for private entities to compete.
Yep.
And I think, the hope that some of us had would be like, okay, the public option just keeps growing bigger and bigger because these private entities can't compete price-wise and service-wise with the public option, and that, you get your toe in the door, and then you just start to crack that door open. There's no reason why we can't do that with drug manufacturing, with energy production.
Also, why we need more public housing to drive down rental markets.
Public housing, and let's do graphic cards.
It reminds me. I'll plug another folk show, American Prestige. Danny and Derek had a guest we should steal. Actually, Kevin Kleiman, talking about the semiconductor stuff, particularly the CHIPS Act, which I didn't realize. Like, we basically did the corporate welfare money of the CHIPS Act, but any of like the rest of the hundreds of millions that was for research and development stuff, we're not going to do that.
I know. Yeah.
Just give them some cash.
Giveaways.
Let them wait for about a year and then fire a bunch of people, and then let's not worry about any sort of competition, which is supposedly what this was all about.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was also to reshore those manufacturers.
That's what I'm
right?
saying. Like it's just not enough. Like I think the argument is like we've sort of lost interest in, and like I think like we should have Kleiman on, but the argument is like we've sort of like that we've not nearly done enough to actually do that.
Oh, to actually have them come back?
Yeah. Like they're going to be way more expensive. It's going to take a lot more, I think. My impression is concerted effort than just.
Well, there were also no strings, so it's giveaway money, and then do with it what you will.
Yeah.
And it's still heavily concentrated in Taiwan.
All right, quick break. Head to the fun half. 646-257-3920 is the number. We'll be back in just a moment.
You are in for it.
All right, folks. 646-257-3920. See you in the fun half.
Oh, no.
Are you ready?
Who sent us this?
Anarchy. Alpha males are back. Boy is back. And the alpha males are back.
Just as delicious as you could imagine.
The alpha males are back. Boy is back. And the alpha males are back.
Just wanna degrade the white man.
Alpha males are back.
I take all of it in my throat.
Alpha males are back.
Snowflake says what?
The alpha males are back.
You are a madman.
And the alpha males are back.
Oh no, Sam Seder! What a fucking nightmare!
Bring back DJ.
Yeah, or a couple of them. Just put them in rotation.
DJ Denner.
Well, the problem with those is they're like 45 seconds long, so I don't know if they're enough of a break.
That's fucking nonsense. You see white people doing drugs, they look worse than normal white people, and all white people look disgusting.
And the alpha males,
psych, fuck them. Snowflake says what? Snowflake says what?
A hell of a lot of bank. A hell of a lot of bank. A hell of a lot of bank. Okay, I'm making stupid money. Hell of a lot of bank. A hell of a lot of bank.
All lives matter. Have you tried doing an impression on a college campus?
I think that there's no reason why reasonable people across the divide can't all agree with this. Psych.
And the alpha males are back. And the Africans are black African. And the alpha males are black. And the Africans are back.
When you see Donald Trump out there, doesn't a little part of you think that America deserves to be taken over by jihadists? Keep it at 100.
Can't knock the hustle.
Come on, fuck them. Things I do for the bigger game plan. By the way, it's my birthday. Happy birthday to me, Jew boy.
I have a thought experiment for you.
And the alpha males are back. Africans are black. Black alpha males are black. Black Africans are back.
Come on. Come on. Come on. Someone needs to pay the price for blasphemy around here.
I am a total pussy.
Okay.
We are back. Sam Seder, Emma Vigeland, Majority Report. There's Cornell West. Let's do this. Let's do clip number 8. Cornell West was on the Katie Halper show and went on there to announce, well, I don't know if they're exclusively, but it does seem that she was, made aware of it, to announce in part that, and it's not clear to me whether they're talking about a united front. I frankly don't know if there's anybody other than a couple of people at the top of the People's Party's movement. People's Party. It's not really a party. It's not even registered as one. And I think he must have found that out and has decided to run with the Green Party, which makes a lot more sense, at least from his perspective. Here is Katie Halper with Dr. Cornell West.
I wanted to ask you, of course, about your presidential run. And there's some exciting news, I believe. So last week, Chris Hedges, friend of the show, Chris Hedges, said during an event for Workers' Strike Back, which was organized by Kshama Sawant, he said that he wanted you to run as a Green Party candidate. And you, of course, when you announced you were with the Movement for the People's Party, the MPP. Do you have an update about this?
Oh, yes. No, that process is very much in movement, and I look forward to it. I'll always have gratitude for the tremendous work of the volunteers of the People's Party and so forth. But there was so much going on internally, and therefore we had to be able to keep the focus where it belongs. And so I am still deeply committed to a broad coalitional sensibility and a united front. And so I invite a variety of different organizations, and that includes the People's Party, but I'm certainly moving in the, not just toward, but want to look forward to being a part of the nomination process of the Green Party. And I look forward to being able to already be in very rich conversation with my dear brother Barack and my dear sister Stein, sister Jill, and brother Ajamu, who I have great love and respect for. So that's true. That is new, and which means when it comes to infrastructure and institution, it's much broader and deeper. Access to the ballot, much broader. But in the end, as you know, any candidacy to run the empire in order to dismantle the empire has to be part of a movement.
I think without assessing or litigating the question of whether this is a time for him to run as a third party candidate, it makes a lot more sense to run with a party that has at least some semblance of an infrastructure, that has at least a track record and theoretically a capability of getting, he says, broader access to the ballot. As far as I can tell, the People's Party had no access to the ballot.
Or I think maybe some people have said they've got some, but it's not significant like the Green Party.
But we should say there is a logic to this. To what he is doing. Now, I may disagree with a third party run, depending on what the two party situation looks like going into the election. But there's time to sort of litigate that.
And also, Cornell West was said vote for Biden in 2020 to stop the fascists. So he's pretty clear about that, at least back then.
Yeah. Oh, he was also the same way I think even in 2016.
I think so too.
Even 2012. despite his issues with Barack Obama. I'm not sure what has changed in that instance. And I think, there'll be opportunity to hear that from him. But people should just take a moment and think about the logic associated with what he's doing here. Now, he's not saying he's doing this because the People's Party is a scam or this and that. It may be, but that's not what his justification here is. The point is that he understands that there is intrinsic, essential value to the creation of institutions and the idea of this gives me access to the ballot. So you have people who say why would Bernie Sanders run as a Democrat? Or why would any of these people run as a Democrat? The reason why you run as a Democrat is the same reason why Cornell West decided after a week on the People's Party ticket why you run with the Green Party. And that is because there is value regardless of maybe there's an ideological difference. And I think there is a big ideological difference between the People's Party and the Green Party, as far as I can tell.
And maybe they don't have a pristine history of a fair primary sort of procedures.
With the Green Party?
With the Green Party.
I mean, they were just saying Jimmy Dore for president and Super Chad to vote him as
that's the People's Party.
Oh, sorry. I thought that. Yeah.
But the Green Party, but the point being that if you're going to run for office, it is essential that you have at least some semblance of institutional support and some semblance of a movement and some semblance of ballot access. And so that logic exists outside of whatever the names of the parties are. And so, people should just keep that in mind. It is a perfect example that that Dr. West is giving as to the practical necessities that are involved in running and why he realized he could not be taken seriously